right. You know, back in the mid-1980s, one of the only ways that we learned about electricity was from the guy before you. You know, if you had a job with a sound company or you had a job at a venue, at a club, whatever, the last guy showed you how you do it, and then that's how you do it. I mean, that's how it was. There was no real schools or any any certification programs at the time about how to use temporary power for rock bands. I mean, you just learned from the guy before you. And I had a job touring with a group that had their own homemade electrical distribution system. Now, having a band with lights and sound and backline, you can't just plug it into the wall. You need 220 volt power, and that comes from the panel. And there's a lot of ways to approach that, you know, and the way that we did it was the improper way, the unsafe way, and the dangerous way, but it's the only way at the time that I knew, and that's the way we did things. And our methodology was, instead of having a professional electrician come in and tie us in, we would do it ourselves. And we would use the tools that we had, which was not a lot. And we didn't have what they call electrical meters. Now, what you do today is you have the electrician tie in power, and the first thing he does is he meter it. He gets his fancy little meter out, and meters it, beep, beep, make sure everything's okay, and that everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing with the alternating current. And that's how we do it. Well, back then in the 80s, we had this motto, which was no smoke show, no smoke, good to go, right? We would just plug in the cheapest thing that we owned and just stare at it for a few minutes, and if it didn't smoke, then we're good to go. Right? So we get to this place called Middleton, Ohio, at the club called the U-Turn. And the gimmick at the U-Turn was they had two bands play every night. One band on one side of the room and one band on the other side of the room. It was trying to gain the audience favorite, like who is the favorite band of the night kind of thing. It was stupid, it was a gimmick, but that's how they did it. And the other band that played that night, who I don't even remember who they were, they had an electrician come in. They had him tie him into the panel that they had, and I tied into the panel that was for us. And I used, you know, my usual tools, a dime. And what we had is these jumper cable clamps to clamp onto the power, to clamp onto the live power. And if you're thinking of jumper cables like, you know, like that you have in your car when you jump start a car, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, unsafe, untrustable, and that's what we did it. Now, if you've ever been electrocuted, even so mildly electrocuted, and stuck a fork in a socket, or, you know, if you have other hobbies, you'll know that it's very unpleasant. It's quite the shock, as they say, and it's not something that you really want to go through. But when it comes to 220 power, it's not like that at all. It holds you onto it, and you cannot let go of it. And the only way to get off 220 power is to have somebody hit you and knock you away from the power with something that is not conductive to electricity, like a board, like a wooden board, right? So we needed somebody that was responsible enough where they could be there with the board, and in case I get case I'm getting electrocuted, right, the person with the board could be there, have a quick reaction, and look out for my safety and knock me away right away. Well, we didn't have anybody like that, so I had to use somebody, our spotlight guy. His real name was Larry, but he got the nickname Somebody because somebody was always passing out and get duct taped to things around the country, right? And interestingly, Larry looked exactly like Stephen Percy from Rat. So he was always telling girls in the club that he was Stephen Percy, and you'd be shocked to know how often that worked. Right? So I always told somebody, I said, listen, look here, Cletus. Sometimes when I touch this, there will be a small spark, and it'll put the spark on the ground. Do not react to a spark. You will know when I'm being electrocuted because I'll let you know, right? So I'm going to clamp on, I got my clamps and I'm coming in and I touch it and this little spark goes in and man, just slam. He just slams me in the back with the board. He knocks me in. He knocks me into the panel, right? Now, I wish I could describe what it's like to get hit with a 2x4 at close range with an amped up hillbilly just taking his best swing, you know. But it was pretty awful, and we got through that. I survived the beating that I got from him. And we plugged in something cheap, no smoke, good to go. So the crowd fills up, crowd comes in, place is filled with people, and the other band starts first. They do their set, 40 minutes or whatever it is, and they do their thing, and then my band instantly starts up. Pyro Explosion goes, the lights come on, the sound comes up, they go, I think opening up with a Black Sabbath something, the kind of thing, and the things going on, and everything's happening all great. And I noticed that it's starting to sound kind of funny. It's starting to kind of sound funny, and the lights are kind of dimming. And me and the lighting guy are looking at each other like what's going on here, right? And then we see the crowd running, rushing towards us in panic, right? And if you've ever had that sensation of just a whole crowd of people coming at you, you know, it was pretty overpowering. And I start running the other way, and what I see is these big balls of electricity about the size of an orange or a small grapefruit that are just going zzz, zzz, zooming through the room. What's happened is one of my fancy alligator clamps, my jumper cables, had jumped off. It was dancing around the panel, and every time it hit something, it would arc and send one of those blue balls of electricity through it. Well, you know, I was freaked out to the max. I was frightened looking at this thing. By the time I got close enough to it, I could see that every time it touched the metal box, it looked like someone took a bite out of it. And I was like, what the fuck, you know? So, like a moron, I'm trying to grab the thing, you know, I'm about to get some, I'm trying to electrocute myself inadvertently. And I look to the right, and what do you think I got? I got somebody with a swing high and to the right. Bam! The side of the face with that, with that goddamn wooden board. You know, I mean, come on. Slow your roll, Cletus. You know, and he knocked me the fuck out, and he inadvertently saved the day by knocking out all the cables. And it was a mess, and the transformer blew up outside, and the whole place was in darkness. I'm laying on the floor. I'm all fucked up from getting hit by this 2x4. And there's somebody comes up to me, leans right over and goes, "That's my best swing ever, huh?"